is it's the capital of the Maluku province, which is a series of islands far, far to the east. And that makes me the easternmost English language fellow in Indonesia. I've spoken to other fellows, and you know, there's just a lot of diversity in regards to your day as a fellow. And I think each one provides a very, very unique experience. For example, Indonesia, you know, it has large cities, and it has places like Ambon that are more rural and more natural. And I feel very, very lucky to be here. A typical day for me living in Ambon is maybe sometimes my counterpart will come before class and we'll talk about the day. He'll try to help me with my bahasa, and that's usually what will happen in the morning. Then either together or alone, I'll get on a motorcycle, which is actually a very new experience for me. It's actually a lot of fun riding a motorcycle through the city. I actually live on the opposite side of the island from where most of my classes are. And so I take the motorcycle, I take a ferry across the Bay of Ambon to the other side of the island where most of my classes are. Usually there's a lot of traffic on my way there, but when I get there, I just begin and teach my classes. Universitas Patimura has about 20,000 students. Most of the students are from the Maluku province. They come from all of the surrounding islands. The students of Umpati are actually very different from the students that I taught in New York. There's extreme eagerness to learn the language, as the understanding is that the greater your English capacity and the more English you know, the better your chances are at finding work and actually improving your social status. And so we actually have a great time. We go together in groups to sometimes have classes on the beach. Sometimes we go touring and they show me all the different wonderful places of Indonesia. And so not only have I developed a very fun relationship in regards to teaching, but also I've been able to have some great opportunities to get to know them. After teaching my classes at the campus Pegasde, I usually stop for lunch at one of my favorite restaurants, which is the Room 88. They have this big white cooler, they open it, and there's fresh fish caught just that morning. And you actually get to choose which fish you want, and they will grill it up for you and serve it with a couple of sides. And it's actually really, really cheap, and it's actually really, really good. So I also work with American Corners, and American Corners is a library/event and presentation space in the university, and it's sponsored by the U.S. Embassy. There I do at least 2 presentations a month, basically on American culture, anything from holidays to music, anything that we feel is an important theme that the greater community would benefit from. In my spare time, there's actually a lot to do. One of the things I really enjoy doing is exploring the island. Usually after all my classes, after my day is done, the beaches are so close that I can just mosey on over and just sit and watch the sunset, relax, take a breather, and usually tell myself how lucky I am. I really have to say that this program is, I would say, the pinnacle for English language professionals. I can't imagine any other opportunity where you would have this much opportunity for professional development, this much actual hands-on classroom experience, this much time to actually create what it is that you would like to accomplish. I enjoy it so much that I've actually decided to renew. I was offered an opportunity to stay for another year, and I have accepted. And so I will be staying in Ambon.
Thank you so much again, everybody, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm calling in from Illinois, which is where I'm currently based. But I have quite a few friends in Portland. I'm looking forward to coming out for TESOL 23 later, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. You see our website on this video here. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat as well. Yeah, Jennifer, I agree. I love being here as well. So this is probably the best bet if you get no other links from me today. I was just in Missouri today, Jennifer. I just got back from Laumeier Sculpture Park. And so this website is a one-stop shop full of updates, stories like the one you just saw. I think I always love watching this video anyway. I think especially as we're getting into the colder months, seeing this kind of island paradise experience in Indonesia is quite pleasant. But I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome you all to our presentation, The World is Your Classroom, Teaching with English Language Programs. So if you're familiar with our programs, welcome back. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. If you're not familiar and you're interested in teacher exchange programs that offer you the opportunity to work abroad with engaged and engaging students and teachers around the world, both in a virtual and in-person capacity, you are in the right place. I'm happy to talk to you about it. So my name's Ben Taylor. I'm currently a marketing and outreach coordinator. You see the little S next to me. We have 3 big programs we'll be talking about today. Specialist is one of them, and I generally do outreach for the specialist program. Although I myself was actually a fellow in Kazakhstan. So I was in person in Kazakhstan for 2 years in the north of the country. And that was in 2016, 2018. And we'll be talking about various experiences from around the world, again, both at home and in person today. So English language programs, places highly qualified. You'll see me look off every once in a while. I've got my notes on a phone next to me, so apologies for any visual discrepancy there. English language programs places highly qualified U.S. citizen educators in the field of TESOL in projects funded by the U.S. Department of State to assist U.S. embassies in delivering English language programs and supporting public diplomacy and mutual understanding through cultural exchange. So fellows, specialists, and virtual educators are counted among more than 50,000 participants in State Department international exchange programs each year. All English language programs participants benefit from the opportunity to form meaningful relationships and connections in a new culture, to gain valuable cross-cultural work experience, and to make a positive and life-changing impact on the lives of the people they meet and work with, as well as on their own lives. So I guess one of the important takeaways here, this is very much a collaborative effort on a number of different levels, all of which involve the U.S. State Department. But from my end of things, I work with Georgetown University, so we do a lot of kind of the logistics end of things. On our end, the State Department works with host institutions and U.S. embassies around the world. And then there's also that collaboration, of course, with the host institutions. And so where do we go? It's a frequent question. And we go to all the countries that you can see highlighted here. This map shows the 130 countries that have hosted English language programs projects over the years, both in person and virtually. And virtual programming has actually made it possible to create projects in countries we haven't been able to work in before, allowing us to build relationships with more people in more countries. So a clear example of this, recently, we do have projects happening in a virtual capacity in both the Ukraine and Russia right now. We've also got projects happening in Cuba in a virtual capacity. There was a really cool project, I think from 2 years ago, involving a conversation club that happened entirely over WhatsApp, which is a messaging service. So some really exciting capacity building opportunities happening as a result of that virtual component. All right. So as we've said, English language programs includes 3 programs. There's the fellow program, which I'll be talking about my experience here in a little bit, the specialist program, and the new virtual educator program. So the fellow program has been sending TESOL professionals abroad for over 50 years, and the specialist program began over 30 years ago. They actually had their 30th anniversary last year. And so they have both in-country and virtual projects. We'll be talking about some of the differences between these programs, as well as some of the similarities as we go through this presentation. So here you see lots of happy people at work. Okay, so we'd like to share details about each of these 3 programs, starting with the fellow program. And you can see clearly at the bottom here, one of the big questions people have, the timeline on this one. This is very much a set program. There are kind of 2 blocks in which fellows generally go out. One of them is in the fall, one is in the spring, but in both cases, we're looking at a 10-month assignment. Okay. The fellow program offers in-country projects that last 10 months. Fellowships are full-time assignments with up to 20 contact hours per week. And then there's also 10 hours for prep and grading and 10 hours for secondary duties. We'll see some of those in just a moment here. These projects, as I was mentioning, are designed by the U.S. embassies along with host institutions, and they vary from country to country based on local needs. So the goal of all projects is developing English language capacity and increasing mutual understanding through cultural exchange. Many projects also involve some degree of teacher training in addition to teaching language skills. I can tell you from my own experience, we'll get into this more in a little bit, of course, but teacher training was a major component of what I did. So projects are unique, challenging, and rewarding. I think no two projects are the same. Participants have the opportunity to develop skills that will enhance their TESOL careers while experiencing a new country and culture. That kind of multifaceted and very diverse nature of the projects is yet another reason I would recommend going to our website, which I've written the link in our chat. But I think that's a great way to see kind of a range of some of what's going on, including a lot of our English for specific purposes related projects. So we have, for example, a lot of people working in STEM English, the sciences and technology. We have a lot of people working business English. We have a lot of people working English for uniformed personnel, climate change and sustainability. The list goes on. So there's a lot of interesting backgrounds. Chat here. Oh, I'm echoey. Okay. Let me see if I can. Oh, great, Phil. Welcome, Phil. I hope. Am I still echoey? I can try to change something. It's better. I am. Okay. Good. Let me know if I am again. I'm happy to treat this kind of organically. So.
Yeah, I think you're still echoey. If you maybe mute your mic and then unmute it, try that.
Let me try that. Did that help?
No.
I wonder if this is. Give me a second here.
Or if you have headphones with the.
I do. Okay. To be continued. Give me like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and the volume might work too. Turning the volume.
Okay.
While he's getting his headphones, is there anyone here in the room who have been an English language fellow, a virtual teacher, or a specialist?
I was two years in Burma.
Awesome. I had 2 years in Honduras and a year and a half in Chile, Santiago. And I know. And I did 2 specialist programs, one in Beijing and surrounding areas. Here comes Ben. And so, yeah.
It's great to see some alumni in this meeting today. So thank you so much for that. You even got the shirt on. Yeah. How's the echo now? Am I any better? Same
Still
situation? I don't know what to do.
You're very cinematic.
Yeah, I'll see if I can move to another part of my house. Maybe that'll help. I don't know.
In a world.
Yeah, exactly. How are we? Is it any better now? Am I still echoing?
No, you're still in.
Still echoing.
Oh,
I don't understand.
Did you change your microphone to be the ones that are in your headphones? Because it sounds like it's coming from the same microphone.
Maybe does that do it?
Hey!
Hey, look at that. Jennifer with a victory there. That's great. Okay. So we will go ahead and get started here with the next slide. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, thank you. Part of being a fellow, for anyone who is in here, anyone who's been a fellow, a specialist, virtual educator, things don't always work the way we expect them to. And it often takes kind of a community to bring it together and make the magic happen. So thank you so much for living one of those experiences with me. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next page here. So this is about being a fellow. Every fellow project, as we've said, is unique. You could talk to Steph, you could talk to Phil. We've got a couple of great alumni in here. But at the same time, projects share similar characteristics to varying degrees. So at some time, every fellow will probably do all the things on this slide, and they're often going to do them at the same time. It may look different. It will look different for each person. Every fellow has primary duties at their host institution. A lot of times those are universities. It's not always the case. And so those often involve classroom teaching of both language skills and methodology. Secondary duties often give fellows a chance to work with teachers and students outside of their host institution, often on projects of personal interest. And so we'll get into some of this later. I've got a slide I'll show you in a moment, but in my case, I actually had my own TV show. That was kind of a fun and an unexpected aspect of my work. I've heard of people doing all sorts of different art reviews and jazz improv writing, and you name it. Lots of fun out there. Public diplomacy or people-to-people connections can also happen in big and small ways. So for example, attending a special event hosted by the embassy's public affairs office, or talking about your hometown with a neighbor, those all constitute the kind of work we're doing. If anyone in here has any familiarity with the Peace Corps, I would say that that kind of all-encompassing nature of public diplomacy that ends up being sort of a purveying characteristic of what we do as well. Community projects often develop out of a fellow's personal interests while also meeting a need in the community. And many of these activities provide opportunities for professional development, from teaching a new course to giving a plenary for the first time. Finally, every moment as a fellow is an opportunity for cultural exchange while being immersed in a host community. When doing all these things, successful fellows are flexible, resourceful, and responsive to the needs of their community and host institution, as all of you were when I was echoing. So again, thank you so much for that. But yes, this is just a taste of some of the many different things that fellows do. One of the questions that always comes up is our benefits. And so one way that we are not like the Peace Corps is that as much as we are about global diplomacy, as much as we are about international education, we are not a volunteer organization. This is very much a job with benefits, including monetary benefits. So in-country fellows receive a $35,000 stipend for a 10-month assignment. These funds are deposited into a US bank account and are taxed. In addition to that stipend, every fellow will receive a living allowance, which should be enough to pay your daily needs. And that covers lodging, food, local transportation to and from work. The program also provides tickets for international travel to and from the fellow's country of assignment, and all Department of State overseas exchange participants receive a supplemental health benefits plan to cover emergencies, illness, or accidents in country. Program activities allowance is also provided, which fellows use to purchase educational materials and to support activities. If you have a subscription that you might need for one web service or another. I know I had an account with Padlet when I was a fellow, just as one example. It helped me a lot to have that. So if eligible, a fellow may also receive a tax dependence allowance to assist with accompanying family members. I can't tell you, and this might be you now, I can't tell you how often I've talked to somebody who was fascinated by our programs and just said, I just have to wait until I'm a little older and the kids are out of the house, or I can't do it because I don't think my partner would be able to do things in America without me for 10 months or whatever. We actually have a dependence allowance. It is common, completely normal, etc., to bring your family with you. And in fact, for some people, this is one of the defining characteristics of their fellowship. So let's put that out there. All right. That gets us to the specialist slide. As much as this is something that is dear to my heart, and I know that we have at least one specialist alum, possibly two, in here. No, okay, sorry, Phil. But I know Steph was. And Steph, could you? Where again were you as a specialist?
I did 2 specialist gigs. I did one in Beijing for in-service training for teachers, and then I traveled to all of their schools. And then I spent a month in India, on the east coast of India, working with indigenous populations in a vocational university.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, and let me see what's going on in the chat here just for a second. Oh, and Susan Strand also was a specialist in ELF. Great. And Susan, where were you, if you don't mind?
Well, this is a long question. I was an elf for a long time, probably one of the longest serving elves. I apologize for that. But mostly in West Africa, but I did a tour in Afghanistan and in Chile. And I was a specialist in India as well, and in Pakistan and in Colombia. So
Great. Okay.
yeah, great experiences.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you for that, Susan. And I'm glad to hear from you and Steph, because one characteristic that you might have caught if you're hearing about the specialist program for the first time right now, that's going to sound remarkably different perhaps from the fellows program. We have 2 participants in here who have done multiple projects, and this is actually quite common for specialists. We do have specialists who will do more than one. We have a policy called 111, which means one specialist can get one project every one academic year. So we do have people that have done multiple projects. Another way that this is remarkably different from the fellows program, you could just see visually here. We've got Brett Velazny, who's one of our great specialist alumni on the left here, working in a virtual capacity. And then over here on the right, we have something that very much happened in person, right? So English language specialists, such as Susan and Steph, and the people we see here, are highly experienced TESOL professionals who serve as high-level consultants for short-term English language projects. The average length of time of a specialist project is 3 weeks. It's not to say that there aren't projects that are longer. We also have projects that are much shorter. But 3 weeks is the average length. Specialists exchange knowledge, build English language teaching capacity, and establish partnerships benefiting participants, institutions, and communities in the United States and overseas. Okay, and so the specialist program does look different in some ways from the fellows program. Let's get into that a little bit. There are approximately 240 specialist projects every year designed by local U.S. embassies. These projects may be in-country, virtual, or a combination of both. Sometimes they're even multi-phase. You might do one phase one year, and then there's a physical iteration of what you did virtually the year prior in the next year, right? So the in-person projects range in length from 10 days to 3 months, while virtual projects have no minimum or maximum duration. Specialists conduct needs assessment, collaborate on curriculum design, make plenary presentations, conduct intensive teacher training workshops, develop national testing, and advise ministries of education. And that is just a small taste of what specialists do. ESP projects are especially in demand to meet local needs, as I was saying. So, for example, projects related to climate change, disaster management, journalism, border security, and other critical areas. And again, the website would be a great place to look at some of what we've done in those critical areas. To ensure that the program engages as many American educators as possible in international exchange, specialists may be considered for only one project per year. Okay, and as we looked at with fellows, it seems prudent to look at the benefits for specialists. The stipend for in-country projects is $250 per day, and these funds are deposited into a U.S. bank account and are taxed. The program provides allowances and supplements to cover everything from living costs to materials. So that program allowance that fellows have, there's a similar analog for specialists. The program provides tickets for international travel to and from the country of assignment in the case of an in-person component. And as with the fellow program, in-country specialists receive a supplemental health benefits plan to cover emergencies, illness, and accidents in country. Meanwhile, virtual specialists have a stipend for $50 an hour, and these funds are deposited into that same U.S. bank account. And the program also provides allowances and supplements for planning and activity costs. So for a lot of people that are interested in the specialist program, but maybe don't feel like they can take the sabbatical or the time necessary off from their primary workplace to do an in-person specialist project, the virtual component of the specialist program may be an attractive option for some people. So it's something that we can say in the application process as well. And now, just like we looked at the day in the life of a specialist or of a fellow, I would really like to show us the day in the life of a specialist. So here we have one of our great specialists, Paul K. Matsuda, and he'll be showing the day in his life.
So today I'm going to talk about facilitating language development through writing. Now, how many of you teach writing? Okay, great. How many of you have taken a classroom assessment? We actually need to have a really fine-tuned interval scale.
Make it more interesting and engaging, both for students and for ourselves. What do you think? How would you do it?
He did not just go scuba diving every day. No, I see the question in the chat. Although I will say he would not be the first specialist to scuba dive while on assignment. We've had that happen on a number of occasions as well. So let me just go on here. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Finally, I'd like to tell you about our newest program, the Virtual English Language Educator Program, more commonly known as just the Virtual Educator Program. This did, of course, kind of expand as a response to the pandemic, although I'm happy to say it's bigger and better than ever now. And so virtual educator projects are of varying lengths. Some projects may last for several weeks, while others may continue for an academic term and possibly longer. Virtual educators work in their homes or other personal space with their own equipment. Through the use of digital engagement tools, virtual educators facilitate communication across borders and assist in improving English language education around the world. They often do this with their adorable pets, as we see in the picture. So these projects are an exciting way to expand on your experiences. Participants have a unique opportunity to develop skills that will enhance their TESOL careers. A lot of times for people that require some flexibility in their schedule, maybe want to maintain whatever job they currently have, but are interested in the programs we have on offer, the virtual educator program becomes a viable option for them. Okay. So virtual educator projects are performed 100% online and often involve classroom teaching of both language skills and methodology. Every virtual educator project offers an opportunity for cultural exchange by connecting Americans to classrooms across the globe. Virtual educator projects are designed by U.S. embassies to foster meaningful connections that strengthen relationships with people of other countries, and virtual educator projects provide opportunities for professional development. Okay. And so again, with benefits, virtual educator benefits include a stipend of $35 per contact hour, supplements for planning before and during the project, and an activities allowance. In all three cases, for all three of our programs, this also comes with a paid year membership to TESOL through the global membership, and access to our excellent community of practice, which is a great group full of alumni with resources, jobs portals, excellent experience, advice, things of that nature. Lots of professional development opportunities there as well. And so I do have one other video here. This is a day in the life of a virtual educator. This is Pearlie Lubin, who's going to be talking about her experiences as a virtual educator.
My name is Pearlie Lubin, and I was a virtual educator in Costa Rica. There, I led 2 conversation clubs, one with Funditech Access High School students, and another with the students of the National Learning Institute. In addition, I led teacher training for some in-service teachers at the National Learning Institute. There were some challenges during my time in Costa Rica. One was definitely the weather. We experienced hurricanes, tornado, mudslides, and lots of heavy rain. But it didn't stop us, and the teachers would come back to class as soon as they got power again. Another challenge was definitely technology. For most, they had never been in a synchronous class before, and they hadn't taught synchronously before. So there were a lot of strategies, a lot of apps that we went through together, learned to use together very well. Another challenge is that the teachers in my course were those who did not pass a new entrance exam required by the National Learning Institute. So when they came into the classroom, they were somewhat demoralized, a little embarrassed for not being able to pass the exam. So I knew that one of my first duties was to create a safe space I wanted the classroom to be a learning community and to let the teachers know that we were going to learn from each other. I confess, I wasn't the most well-versed in using Microsoft Teams. So one of the first things I did was to get together with a tech and learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could. And then I invited that computer technician to come into the classroom and help the instructors. So if they had any questions, the technician was there to answer, and just to make sure that we started on the right footing. So there was a lot for us to learn together. There were many highlights over the course of my fellowship, but I think one was definitely creating a safe space where the teachers felt comfortable saying, I didn't know, or I would like to learn how to do something. And I think that was really important for all of us. We learned together. Another highlight would definitely be the podcast on Padlet. The teachers designed their own scripts. They got their own intro music, their outro music. They decided who the host was, what the topics were going to be, and what they wanted to elaborate on. They did such a good job. What was great to see is that some are actually doing that project as well as others from the class with their own students, and they're sending me links to see what their students are doing now. So feeling rather proud of that. In addition, on the very last day of class, the teachers decided to surprise me. So they kept saying to me, do you hear a knock on your door? Do you hear a knock at your door? And I said, no, I don't hear anything. But I checked, and when I did, I received a bouquet of flowers, a card, and a balloon. I was truly, truly touched. I can't say enough about my time in Costa Rica and my time with the instructors at the National Learning Institute. If you are considering a virtual project, I would say be prepared to be immersed in a new culture, to be exposed to so many new things, and just to be able to do so from the comfort of your own home, that's just icing on the cake.
All right. So yeah, Pearlie had a really great experience as a virtual educator. A lot of our virtual educators do. And so we've seen a little bit from a number of different people from our various programs. I have a little bit of information from my own experience as a fellow in Kazakhstan. Not too terribly much. I want to keep this short, but I will say for a lot of fellows, we have our primary and our secondary projects. My primary experience both years was in a university. The first year I was teaching students who were going to be themselves English language educators. In the second year, I was teaching people who were working specifically in computer sciences, architecture, and other STEM backgrounds. And so I was teaching the English that they would need to work in a global context on those very specific positions. And so that's what's going on the left here. I was at a university in Karaganda, which is in North Kazakhstan. In the middle, that was a secondary project. I was working with Education USA. They're a program dedicated to ensuring that students, high school students, at least in Kazakhstan, this was the deal, are getting prepared appropriately for applying to universities abroad, and specifically to the United States, but really anywhere. And so I did a lot of classes on application processing at that time and how to write the admissions essay. That was a major part of what I did. On the third one, this is back when I had hair, and boy howdy, I didn't know how to comb it. But I was working at a business camp for high school students on this one, and this was an opportunity to get to travel and work with some younger students, which is really where I'd gotten my start as an educator, working in K-12 context and things like that. So it was kind of a nice return for me. One of the really unexpected aspects of my job as a fellow was that I ended up getting a lot of TV and movie gigs. I had never done anything like that before coming to Kazakhstan. I felt extremely unprepared for it, but I also thought, let's just do it. If this is what people want, if this is how to get education to people who can't physically come to our classroom for whatever reason, then so be it. And so the first year I did a number of videos with the US Embassy. My second year, I had a TV show on a local news station that would come out weekly. And then later we had an Instagram series called Banglish, which I unfortunately did not come up with that name, although I do think it's pretty brilliant. And so those were just little minute-long clips with idioms and things of that nature. So it was fun. It was fun. It was a really fun aspect of my experience. And I do have a short video here. This is the last video, I promise. And we'll get into final slides. Actually, we're going to skip this. We're just going to skip it. I don't want to miss out on any good questions here. So for professional development here, you see during and after assignments, you see what we have here. I did mention that community of practice. That's a major benefit. Any alumni in here who are not regularly looking at the community of practice, I've gotten at least 2 or 3 excellent job offers in the time since I've been a fellow. It ultimately led to me working for Georgetown. So I'd say stay tuned there also for professional development opportunities. And you see also we have the TESOL Global membership available and other exclusive opportunities. I'd be happy to talk about this with anybody, question and answer. And then finally, we do have eligibility. There is some discrepancy here between the specialist program especially and the other two. The specialist program does require more experience. But in any case, we're looking for U.S. citizens with a graduate degree in TESOL or a related field. All projects require a depth of experience that comes with many years working with both language learners and teacher trainees, and applications should clearly demonstrate this. The specialist program has an expanded list of eligibility requirements and preferred qualifications that does include at least 10 years of class experience. Usually a PhD degree is not required, but is strongly recommended for specialists. And then also that background in English for specific purposes can help. So again, I would recommend going to the website. That's probably the #1 place. It's kind of a nice cross section of our 3 programs now that we would like to maybe talk about the application process. And so applications are accepted only through the program's online portal. Each program has its own application, and our website provides a detailed outline of what you'll need to submit, expected timelines, things of that nature. We always recommend applicants give themselves plenty of time to complete the application. You can save and return to any section before submitting. For the fellow program, the applications for the following and not current academic year. For the virtual educator program, the application for the upcoming cycle opens in March and then stays open for new applicants till early winter. And for the specialist application, you apply just once and you can apply at any time. Although I will say that is a living, breathing document. And so we do recommend that specialists or applicants come back to that document every 6 months and update with any new publications or work that they have done. After you apply, your application will go through a rigorous multi-step review. And there's that. So stay in touch with us. We do have social media outlets all over the place. This is always the tagline, EL programs. The most important, again, going to our website. And I do have a link that I'm going to put it in the chat in just a moment here for our newsletter. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to raise the opportunity for anybody to ask any questions they would like. Yes. Okay, first question is from my 7-year-old. He wants to know if he can go to grandma and grandpa. We will answer that later. Okay, bud? I'm going to be in a meeting here for a second. All right. Let me get to the chat here. Does an MBA in TESOL certify? Okay, so Lynn, great question. I'm just putting the link to our newsletter in here. Okay, great question here. And in case anyone doesn't see it, does an MBA and TESOL certificate qualify? Can participants choose their assignments? We do need a master's degree. The master's degree can be in a lot of different backgrounds. That TESOL certificate definitely helps. We want at least 5 years of classroom experience, with 3 of those years being with some kind of explicitly ESL, EFL context. So provided that that's you, the MBA actually could even help your application. It shows that you're kind of off in an interesting direction that may be good for some English for specific purposes type contexts. So great question. Yeah. Yes, Jennifer.
Thanks. Yeah, my question is about, I guess, timing, like in as far as career goes. So all of these sound like they are more like intermediate career, like you're not going to do this at the beginning of your career, right? Because you need 5 years experience or 10 years experience even to do it. On the other hand, that does sound like it's very much in the middle and not the end of your career. So what happens when you finish and then like you are starting from zero, or not from zero, but now you're looking for a job in the middle, when you typically might be in the middle of your career. Maybe this is like key to where I am in my career. I'm older, but I'm also at the beginning of my career because I just finished my PhD 3 years ago now.
Okay.
You know, but I'm older maybe than some people who would have been finishing their PhD in their 20s or 30s. So I don't know. Is that hard to?
No, that's a great question, Jennifer, and it's actually the same kind of question probably a lot of us have. I will tell you that a lot of our applicants are in exactly the same lot that you are. I myself came to this program shortly after graduating my master's degree for fellows. I had a couple of years of teaching experience prior to that. Okay, and so I will say this. I think for a lot of our applicants, this is not walking away permanently from some position to become a fellow for a year or a specialist or whatever. It's perhaps taking a sabbatical. It's perhaps doing the virtual educator program and working on a time zone and time differentiation that wouldn't necessarily intervene or interfere with your regular scheduled job. And so I think that there are a number of options out there that actually do make this a viable thing for somebody who is mid-career. And I would also say, while I would agree with you that a lot of people identify this as kind of a mid-career position, and I think there are certainly some qualities that would make it seem as such. There's also something to be said for somebody who's maybe had a couple of years volunteer teaching experience, working in English for a second language, what have you, coming away from a master's degree and then saying, hey, maybe this is something for me, who may very well identify themselves as being kind of at the beginning of their career or closer to it. And also we have fellows, our oldest fellow was 80 years old when she started. And so we do have some people that are in the kind of twilight years of their career as education specialists who are very much engaged in doing what we do. So great question though. Thank you so much.
Ben, I hate to interrupt, but it's 1:25.
It is.
Yes, I want to thank you for your time. I just want to make sure you guys know that you can join the main room or go to the schedule to find if there's a special interest group that you'd like to join. You're more than welcome to stay here. But I also have to mention, Ben and the team from the U.S. State Department are going to be at the TESOL conference next March 21st to 24th. They're a big presence at the conference. So, right, come visit.
Not only will we be there, and I know, Steph, I know that I've already taken up too much time here, so I'm going to be really quick. But if you do come to the conference, please come without a water bottle, a hat, a pen, or whatever else, because we have lots of great freebies. So it'd be great to see you there. Yeah.
Lots of merch.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Ben. It's been great. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Ciao.
Mm-hmm.